Stoltenberg's house, yeah.
More than that, it washed out our little trout farm in the pond.
Yeah.
We found fish up on dry land because the water went down suddenly,
Yeah.
and the big salmon were there. You could walk across their backs and no deer. Now there's not one. But that's what happened. So the one side they were flooding on the top side, and when they let it on the bottom
Yeah.
side, we were washed away.
Well, there's Stoltenberg's house up there just hanging on the edge. And that's some sad looking person down there just looking at it. Things went pretty poorly for the furniture factory. I don't know quite where this is, but it looks bad. Anyway, we went over to the Okies' house a few weeks ago. A beautiful spot, just gorgeous. And a nice walk that you can take down to the fish hatchery. And Barbara's got to get out and walk, and she sure got one of the nicest walks there ever was. No traffic, no cars. Glenn and I, of course, were peering in the water looking for another piece of the millstone. And I think we got two in here. Then we went up to the Byrd Cemetery. Another delightful spot on the crest of the hill. You're looking out across the ex-game farm down here. It's just a beautiful sight. And the Byrds selected one of the nicest places in all of Pierce County for their cemetery. It has not always been cared for. They've done the best they could. Trouble was that with part of the hospital, Western State did not take care of it. They built a chicken house right on top of the cemetery. Well, here's William Edward Ross. Died July 9th, 1871. I suspect he's part of the large Ross family that was connected with the Hudson Bay post at Fort Nisqually.
You notice he's only 21 years old.
Yeah, I think there were two.
Yes, there's another Ross on the side.
Now, this is when things really went kind of bad in this neighborhood. This is what is called the Goose. It was a jalopy racetrack. There's Stilcombe Boulevard. Wendell probably remembers the Goose.
I remember the jalopy.
The jalopy, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of racket, a lot of smoke, lots of dust.
Yeah.
And this is the Hewitt Land Company's prairie across here.
Yeah, and an airstrip on the other side, Stilcombe Boulevard at that time also, and a putt-putt sort of a golf course on the same area.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, so much for that. I'm going to turn this over to Kurt Athow, and if any of you have been interested in local history, you'll certainly remember his father's name, Leland. Kurt just had spent 40 misspent years of his life in Indiana, so, but he's here now. I don't know. It would help. We could pull this cable over.
Yeah, or I can use your millstone. How is that?
Okay, that's a good spot. Want to turn the lights up?
Yes, I did the lights because I was going to have to follow the script. Actually, we could just put it right out there on that one. How about that?
Fine. We'll get it together in a minute here.
That's pretty heavy, isn't it?
Oh, gosh. 40 pounds, I put it on the scales. That's my load limit.
Yes, it's very appropriate for the occasion at least. Well, I was asked to say something about the history of the Byrd family, actually the Adam Byrd family, who came to Stilicho in 1852 or 53. I'll explain that a little later. And I guess that the only reason that I was asked to do it is because I'm my father's son. And he was very interested in the Byrd history of the Byrd family and the genealogy. Unfortunately, he died about 9 years ago, at the age of 98, and so he can't do it. Peggy Goddard, who is now our historian, is out of town, and so
I think she left when I asked her to do this.
well, she did, but she had a legitimate reason. She went to visit one of her daughters in Albuquerque. And I'm going to follow the script fairly close because there's a lot of dates and places, and I don't know how you would ever remember all of them without following them. And you'll find all of this material in the handout you got. The only thing is that I pulled it together in a little different order. One of the reasons, I guess, that my dad got interested in this history was that George Washington Byrd, he was the youngest of the 9 children of Adam and Mary Howe Byrd, lived close to him for 22 years until he died in 1915. And so I'm sure my dad talked to him a lot about their history and their trip out here and all these things, and it stirred some interest to him. And in 1931, he started compiling the history and genealogy of the descendants of Adam Byrd, which we published in this form here in 1969. This was a mimeograph publication, very much the same as this one does, published later. Shortly after that, one of my cousins, Peggy Goddard, who now lives in University Place, became interested in particularly the genealogy of the family and was able to fill some of the gaps and check the accuracy of some data and places. And the revised edition was published in 1982. I'll get these 18s and 19s mixed up pretty bad here because most of this starts out in the 1800s and ends up in the 1900s. It's the same way we do now with the 1900s and the 2000s. But so this was published in 1982, and it brought up to date everything up to date at that point. As the historian of the Byrd clan, Peggy Goddard has tried to keep the genealogy current. She also has traced the family back several generations, back farther than Adam Byrd. And it was gratitude to these two that I share some of the results of their long and arduous labor. Now, Adam Byrd was born in 1796 in Shenandoah County, Virginia, and he married Mary Howe of North Carolina in 1820. She was born in Holland and came to North Carolina with her parents. and soon after their marriage, they moved to Sugar Creek Township, Greene County, Ohio. That's a little bit west of Dayton, Ohio. So it's in the center of the state, pretty far to the west. And here, the first of their first 4 children are born. Mark Allen Byrd, born in 1821. Duval Byrd in 1823. He died 3 years later, so he won't be mentioned again. Andrew Felix Byrd was born in 1825, and Daniel Houck Byrd in 1827. They moved to Missouri in 1827, where 2 sons were born. I'm not sure where they moved to in Missouri. I assume it was in the northern part. But these 2 sons were Francis Marion Byrd, 1828, and John Preston Byrd, born in 1832. They remained in Missouri 6 years, and then moved to Joe Davis County in Illinois. And that's way up in the northwest corner of Illinois, where their only daughter and the last 2 sons were born. Mary Catherine Byrd was born in 1835, and William Pleasant Byrd in 1839. George Washington Byrd, who incidentally is my great-grandfather, was born in 1843. They stayed in Illinois about 9 years, and then moved the family about 125 to 150 miles due north into Wisconsin, in Richland County, Wisconsin, where they built and operated a grist mill on the Richland River. After 8 or 9 years in Wisconsin, Adam became interested in the vast western territory, which was being opened for settlement. I imagine the donation claims that the government had recently made available was an inducement. In 1852, he decided to move the family west. His destination was the Puget Sound area. In 32 years, Adam and Mary Houck Byrd had lived 8 years in Ohio, 6 years in Missouri, 9 years in Illinois, and 9 years in Wisconsin. So they were moving right along. I don't know exactly why they moved so much. I here again suspect, having lived in that area for many years, that they weren't the first settlers in there, and they were coming in after people had picked the good land, and they were getting in wasn't quite as prosperous. Although they seemed to be doing very well, and I think particularly in Wisconsin, where they ran the grist mill, they did very good. They left Wisconsin in mid-April of 1852. They had to leave early enough to get to their destination before winter, and they had to wait long enough so that there was grass for the animals. And that was important in planning those trips. The Byrd train consisted of 3 wagons, to each of which was yoked 3 oxen, and a 4th wagon, which was drawn by 4 horses. In the party was Adam Byrd, who was 56 at that time, his wife Mary Houck Byrd, 55, 3 married sons,